Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another season and another episode of the Excellence Cartel. Today, we have our good friend Josh Cuthbert joining us. He trains pro NFL players, to name a few, most notably George Kittle. And today, we're going to pick his brain about what it takes from him to even train a pro athlete and what that goes into training a pro athlete. Because a lot of us in our industry, we think about pro athletes in terms of physique sports. And I know a guy who trains high level NFL players. And I thought, well, hell, let's have a conversation and see what this turns out to be. So, has standard. We're going to go over our next 7 days and then we'll get into this. But, Jay, how's your last seven been, brother?
A week ago at this time, I was just landing in Clearwater Beach. So the last 7 days started in a sunny climate for 3 days, which was really great. I've been doing all this fasting and all this low protein stuff to try to get this immune system thing under control, and I just kind of didn't worry about a damn thing there. I still ate healthy, but I got to eat, and so that was nice. And then I got back into all this stuff, trying to work on this health stuff. It's been pretty much my focus, man, to be honest with you. Business, is usual. It's good. Things are going along steady. But most of my focus now is just healing and getting everything where I need it to be because this is starting to drag. So, it's all the lowest weight I've seen since my 20s. That was
Dude.
that wasn't amazing at all. Men don't like to see that, not if it's muscle, and I don't have much fat on me, so it was definitely some muscle. All in all, man, I'm hanging in there. Just trying to check the boxes and get myself where I want to be to get back to bodybuilding. Not necessarily on the stage, but just where you go into the gym, you actually are there to grow and improve. That's just not where I'm at right now. So interesting time.
Yeah, I understand that completely, man. I'm kind of coming on the other side of my injury. I've been stacking a lot of wins lately together, and I don't know what my trigger's been for it. But here lately, I've just been able to build momentum without any setbacks. So, uh, I took some pictures today and was kind of like, man, men's physique kind of looks cool to me. So we'll see where it goes. Jay gets on me about my belly, but since I've been able to correct my spine and properly tilt my fucking pelvis now, my guts don't look near as bad as they did. So, and I tell people like there's so much that goes on. Once you catch an injury, like, if I could go back in time and I could tell anybody who is doing this, the moment you get a sign of something off, stop. Because what will happen is you will program bad things in, and it's a bitch just to overcome your pride when you have to go back and fix it later, has been my lesson. But all in all, I've enjoyed that, man. It's cool for me. It's been, 7 years. So I'm finally happy to kind of be walking pain free and not like afraid of my leg collapsing. The other day, I actually caught myself, Jay, walking up to the front of my neighborhood and back and was like, holy shit, and that was
Nice.
kind of like something I haven't been able to do since I
Yeah.
first moved in 2021.
Yep.
So it's cool. Josh, my man, thank you for taking the time to join us. How's your
Absolutely.
last 7 days been? Busy,
Okay.
I presume, with the draft. And I got to
Yeah.
ask, what do you think about Shindor? Like, what do you think about that? Do you think he
Uh,
deserved to go to fifth round?
no, no,
Okay.
absolutely not. Fifth round for a guy that led the NCAA in completion percentage. I don't care about the off the field issues or lack thereof actual issues. Like he never been arrested, had a big ego, all the things that came with it, but he's very talented. Um, and to drop to the fifth is, you take people in the fifth round that you don't care about. Like, okay, we'll try this guy out, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, we'll kick him to the curb. I mean, that guy was in the draft room for the first round. And to go all the way into the fifth, I think there's been maybe one other guy that's dropped that far down. I mean, hell, even Will Levis went from the first to the second, and um, but it does. It speaks a lot to you got to show up, right? And if you don't show up for yourself, the people around you are going to see it. So if you come unprepared for one thing, it came out that he came unprepared to an interview with an NFL organization. Teams
Yeah.
are worth $7 billion, and you are supposed to be the face. And if you don't come prepared to the one chance you have to show up, that's going to trickle. And people talk, and it's a risk that nobody was willing to take with, the first round money is $30 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And they just weren't willing to take that risk. And
Yep.
I do think that he will pan out to be a quarterback in this league. I think it'll take a couple years to figure that out.
Yeah.
But he's got a solid skill set. He really does. He's smart. He doesn't do bad things with the football. He wins games, and he's done it at multiple levels with talent and without talent. But he's got to figure it out up here. I mean, that's the name of the game. It's like golf. When you get to the NFL, everybody's talented, but the game's played between the eyeballs.
Hmm. A little bit about like pro bodybuilding, I think, honestly,
Yeah.
to a degree. And then you
Mm-hmm.
got some freaks who just, well, that defies it. But anyway, well, thank you for taking the time to join us. I got to know you a few years ago. I've watched your journey as a coach. Like you train some studs. You have a lot of knowledge, especially like in the speed, velocity, force generation. You recently presented, but today I wanted to kind of kick this off and Jay, you can think about where you want to go next, but where I wanted to go is what does it take from you to actually coach pro athletes? Like, how do you show up for yourself to be able to feel like you're not an imposter to train someone as high profile as George Kittle, for example?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I've been on a lot of shows, and I don't think I've been asked that question. Um,
We're getting better at the questions around
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. It does take a certain level of confidence. Um, I guess a certain level of swag. I'm not I'm not aesthetically as pleasing as you guys are, but I do have a relatively strong set of go muscles. I like to keep for me, I keep a 365 strength. So at any given time, I want to be able to bench press 350 pounds, squat 400 pounds, and deadlift 500 pounds. And within that, there's, a clean, a snatch, and all that stuff. And because I've maintained that at 35 years old, at any given time, if somebody's chirping, and these are big, strong athletes, right? If anybody's chirping, I'm at least relatively strong enough to make them shut the fuck up, right?
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people in the industry that are very knowledgeable, but it takes a little bit of connection with these guys on that level. Like, can you actually do what you're making us do, or you just putting stuff on the board, right? So there's that level of it. I did play college football, so there's that connection. I was in the locker rooms. I know what these guys want. I know how they talk. I know the relationships that are built. And then for me at this point now, I've built such strong relationships with people that the people that are coming to me are an automatic fit. There was a point earlier in my career where I was taking any athlete because I wanted to get paid and because they're NFL athletes, and I thought that was fucking cool, right?
Hmm. Oh, I think he froze. You got the froze demon.
Grinder. I've had one, now two first round draft picks. Majority of them, George Kittle was a fifth round draft pick, same as your guy Shador. Robert Tanyan, undrafted. I mean, the list goes from fifth on. And those guys, they're hungry because, like I was telling you earlier, that is not a guaranteed slot on that team. A fifth round guy is far and few between, turns into what George Kittle has. A fifth round guy typically plays 2 years and they're out. So they're coming in hungry as shit. And for me, that helps because I don't have to turn it on as much because they're turning on because they want to be that next guy.
So they basically come into the relationship with you, understanding that they actually have to show the fuck up too.
Correct.
Because that's a little different, I think, on our side, Jay. I think,
Yeah.
you don't see that nearly as much. So that's a really great mentality, and it definitely speaks for your brand. Jay, do you have a question you want to go, or you want me to fire a follow-up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is interesting. This is cool. At one time, I wanted to train like high level athletes. I mean, I guess I kind of do, but not in person. I do nutrition for pro bodybuilders and different things like that at times too. But so this is cool. I think our listeners, if I was sitting here listening to this, I was thinking, what would I want to know? And I want to know how you got into this. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do it? There's a plenty. Like Jeff's a great trainer. He doesn't have pro. Like, how did you do it? Like, how did you do it? Obviously, you had a football background, and like you said, that helps. But how do people get into this?
Now I have been asked this question before, and I won't lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was presented an opportunity earlier with one athlete. And I think a lot of people, there's a saying, right? You have to be ready
Yeah.
for when that opportunity arises. And I was. So that athlete for me early on was Eric Decker.
Oh yeah.
He had never trained outside of the NFL organizations he was with. For some reason, he was on a bedside table doing physical therapy at Elite Orthopedics, and I was training out of there. And I said, I want to train this guy. And the PT said, well, you're wasting your time. He's been coming in here for a couple of years. We've asked him if he wants to train. I said, well, that's fine. I'm I'm going to get this guy to train up. Watch. So built a little relationship. Next thing you know, I'm on a fucking TV show on E Entertainment. Eric and Jesse, blah blah blah. I don't remember what it was called at this point, but from that point on, another athlete came in. It was Michael Orr, Bernard Pollard, Trent Taylor, Quentin Patton. But it just took that one. And I truly believe if I would have whiffed on that one, there wasn't many others that were coming through those doors. Elite Orthopedics is not the place for high-end athletes. I would have been stuck training high-end executives, which is a ton of what I do now, rich people, but not athletes. So I was fortunate enough to secure that opportunity when it came to me. And I think that was just a testament to my ability to connect with individuals, whether it's an athlete, a CEO, whoever it is. Without that connection point, then I wouldn't have been able to make that sale. It's sales, right? Initially, you have to be able to sell yourself and what you're going to do for that athlete, the outcome in which they're going to achieve from working with you. If you can't do that, they're not going to buy. They're not going to buy into you.
I got one quick follow-up. So like Kittle is out in San Francisco. Where are you located?
So I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
So how does this work?
His best friend at the time, still, it's a guy named Trent Taylor, who was a wide receiver with the Niners from Nashville. Parents are from Nashville. He came back in, gives me a call. Hey, I see you're training another wide receiver in Nashville, Eric. I want to get some work. Cool. So I started training Trent. Quentin Patton, he went to Blackman, Murfreesboro, comes in, starts training. George calls. He's like, hey, I think I'm going to go live with Trent for 3 or 4 weeks this summer. Can I come train? Sure. Calls me back after the 4 weeks. Hey, I'm going to come back for the final 8. Is that cool? Yes. Following year, he breaks the record, 1,322 yards for a tight end. Calls me. He's like, hey, I'm moving my family and everybody to Nashville. Let's do this thing.
Oh, wow.
And that was it.
Damn. Okay. Because I mean, obviously, you got to be pretty much hands-on. So I'm thinking, you training all these guys all over the place. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Most of them start back around January, last week of January, first week of February. Then I run with them until now. Organized team activity starts the first week of May. Majority will trickle back in June 15th through July 26th. So that enables me to run different phases with them also.
Okay, cool.
My next question, I want to pivot down this one. Okay. Go over your educational background and then what you do for continuing education and how do you assess value in what you choose to pursue for continuing education given the path that you're walking.
So I got a master's degree in exercise physiology from Ole Miss. I originally went down to college. That's fine. They got my money, but that's about all they got. I haven't been back since.
Good. Keep it that way.
For college strength conditioning, you had to have a master's. And I didn't realize that at first. I was interning out of California, Berkeley in 2012, 2013. Went through this whole extensive interview process. It was between me and another guy for an assistant job, which paid $42,000 in Berkeley. I'm glad I didn't take that job or get the job. And they told me, they said, hey, we like you more. You have more hands-on experience. You've worked with more athletes. We require a master's. We tried to get around it. Administration said, no, you have to have it. Left, went to Ole Miss, got my master's. And at that point, I knew I didn't want to be in college anymore. I was working as a GA at Ole Miss. I was there at 5 in the morning till 9 at night. Again, their lead assistants were making $55,000 or $60,000 a year. I'm like, guys, I mean, we're working for $6 an hour at this point. There's got to be something better. Got into the private sector, realized that's where I wanted to be, opened up own shop in 2018. But all of that to say, certified through CSCS, I serve on the board of the NSCA, Tennessee, USAW, level 1 and 2. Continuing education, I try to get most of that now through speaking engagements. I will say this, and I don't wish that I would have changed my path to get here because it's been very successful. But the time spent in the field, training athletes, training individuals, is vastly more valuable than any book that I've ever read. Yeah. The CSCS, like the gold standard for training athletes.
I was going to ask you about that.
It's a thick.
If that book, if I could start a bonfire tomorrow that would be the start of it. There is so little application in that book that goes into real world training. We don't talk about eccentrics. We don't talk about overcoming isometrics. There's no velocity base. None of that stuff is in there. It's all very generic training knowledge. And I guess for somebody just starting out, understanding rep schemes and percentages in movement, it's okay. But that book does nothing for me 15 years into my career. Zero, zilch, nada.
I'm going to say something to back you as an in-person trainer. Those who usually have those letters after their name are not the best trainers unless they understand chiropractic and can understand how to account for that. Like they
Yeah,
just program usually awful. Most people who seek people want like physical results. They usually can't get it. They're nuanced down in these weird things. And I'm like, dude, they're like they turn and burn them is what I'm getting at.
yeah,
I,
100%.
I think that's why they have to, if you get a CSCS, be more on that college team, NFL team as an assistant, because that's more where you're going to function in that environment. That's really interesting how you kind of relate it. What has been the best certification that you've taken that has had the best application to anything you do? And then, Jay, where you want to go next?
Mike Boyle has a certified uh, functional strength conditioning certification, and it's just his own, like, NCI or something of the sorts. Like,
Okay.
there's no real accreditation to it. He has his own cert. Maybe 500 to 1,000 people get it a year, but it is extremely applicable to athletes. He has a really good knowledge of movement, of biomechanics, on what's needed to generate force in different planes, change of direction, and he delivers movements and movement qualities that are associated with different outcomes for athletes. And that's how he teaches. It's not see ball, get ball, straight line, bench press, whatever some of these other things will be. It is built for coaches that train athletes. And I tell people all the time, how do you get to where you are? What's one resource? I always point them back to Mike Boyle's cert.
There, Jay, go.
So you mentioned um, what separates an NFL player is what's between the ears.
Yep.
So I guess my question to you is, does your training take into consideration the development of the mental piece, or do you only have to do that if you obviously see that they have that issue? Or does like some of these guys already come, you kind of mentioned they're hungry, but is there a mental piece you still find that you work in and it might just be challenging them in a certain way? Or I've seen things where certain guys have to be almost broken down before they're, willing to buy in, and all these different mental games that trainers play. Is there anything that you have to do specifically, or it's like in your tool of tricks that, you use sometimes to kind of get their mental kind of bought in?
Oh, 100%. So similar to how y'all may utilize heart rate variability on a dependent day to adjust volume or intensity, some of my guys have had it a little bit tougher, right? Their road to success isn't quite as easy, right? I've had one guy, he's going into year 9. He's on his 9th 1 year deal. No complaining, right? We've still made $10 million over his career, but every single year, unsure where he's going to be. So somebody like that, he does not need to be broken down.
Yeah.
He needs to stack W's, like Jeff was saying earlier. He needs validation. He needs to know that he is still built for this league. So I take that into consideration when we're programming percentages in lifts. If he misses, if he misses a lift, where does that put him mentally? Right? He's a guy that needs to continue to feel like he is worthy. He's good enough in this league. He's strong enough in this league. He starts missing, not good. Now, to your point, I've got some fucking studs that every now and then need to be brought down to reality. Like, you are really good, but you were really fucking good in college.
Yeah.
There is a difference here. You think you can do this? Okay, let's fucking do it. You miss. Okay, now we're going to build off of that. Right. So both ends of the spectrum 100% occur. I'm not into the business of breaking you mentally. Navy SEALs training,
Yep.
college, 8x8s, 120 burpees or up downs in 10 minutes. Like, we don't do that. I got a group of Ferraris in which I need to make sure they stay Ferraris. And if anything, we're going to change the tires so that they might be a millisecond faster. But I can't afford for anything to occur negatively during our off-season training program. And I do take that into consideration as we're training, but I also don't want to neglect their genetic potential.
Sure.
So there's a fine line, right? So somebody like George going into year 11, could he rip 750 pounds on a trap bar? I 100% without a doubt think the answer is yes. Are we going to find out? No. I told him 2 weeks ago, I think he did 605 banded for a triple. I said, when you're done, I do want to see how much you can pull. Right now, we're not going to. Right now, we're going to watch you pull 605 pounds at a 1.2 meters per second velocity. Awesome. You are ripping that faster than some people can pull 315. And that's why you're first team all pro 4 years running.
Got it.
Oh, guys, I got a little surprise. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. This is Jason Fitz. He's my client. He's actually with Yahoo Sports, and he was excited to interview you and ask you a few questions. So I know
Jason, what's up?
he had a contract thing run over, but Jason, my partner Jason Theobald is over there. This is Josh Cuthbert. He's the one who trains NFL Pro, George Kittle, among a few. We've kind of asked him some questions, but you were at the draft week last week. Okay. So you've got to see a lot of these guys. How many of them are working with trainers now? And then what would be your one question you want to ask Josh after seeing that draft day?
So this is what's interesting to me, Josh, because I was excited to have this conversation because I've talked to George a bunch of times for Yahoo, and talked to a bunch of guys. But there's this transformation that happens from college to the pros. And I think it's the most under talked about portion of life. Like, think about this, guys. Imagine getting drafted. And I talked to one kid last year that when he got drafted, didn't even know where Minnesota was. And he's like, I now play for the Vikings. I don't know where this place is. So like you all of a sudden in the matter of weeks, because mini camps have already started for rookies, right? So you got drafted a couple of weeks ago. Now you're in mini camp. You've had a school take care of everything. And the funny thing to me is most guys have had, like, whether it's Alabama or, Clemson or whatever, like they've got a place that's training them, right? When do the guys, Josh, like when do the pros figure out, okay, I don't just need the Raiders trainer, as I sit here in a Raiders shirt, I need my own guy on top of that. Like, when does that transformation take place?
I would say it's after year one. Most people feel obligated, right? You got drafted by this organization. Even if you're a late draft round guy, you just signed a 4 year, $2.83 million contract. You don't want to not train there as a rookie, right? They're invested in you. You don't know what's expected outside of your first offseason. You think you're supposed to show up on the day you show up, just like you did in college, because that was the rules. That's what you were required to do. And then you do it. And then you start to talk to the guys in the locker room and they say, where are you going to train this offseason? Then you don't train here? No, we don't train here in the offseason. I'm talking 10 guys train at the Tennessee Titans facility during the offseason. I've had talks with Zach Woodman, who's their head strength coach. He sends me guys because the environment is just different. They got open weight room from 8 to 2. The workouts on the board, they get good work. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Zach's fucking phenomenal. They get phenomenal work, but the environment is so much different in the NFL offseason weight room than what you're going to get outside of that. So to answer your question, Jason, it's typically after that first year. And those first round guys, second round guys, they may not do it hardly at all outside of their obligated minicamp.
Isn't that like, so I'll go back to Jeff for a second here. Like, because Jeff, little caveat for anyone that doesn't know, a year ago, I hired Jeff to be my trainer, right? Like it, because I was trying a bunch of things and it wasn't working for me. And Jeff has completely changed my life. But in Jeff, I trust, right? So like, I'm not exaggerating. Sure. Like every single time I'm like, I literally watched an Instagram video that came up yesterday that was like ricotta versus cottage cheese. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, let's just ask Jeff. Like, that's where I am in my life. Is it weird for you though? Like, because if you're Kittle, for example, the results are obvious, right? Like, but do you have to work with the team in any way? Like, are you coordinating with the team, or are you just like, screw it? Like, I do what I do, and as long as the results are there and George shows up at camp in shape, nobody cares.
I think it's a professional thing to try to coordinate with them. I talk with Dustin Perry 4 to 5 times a year. He's the head strength coach for the Niners. He called me after George's second year and he thanked me. I said, for what? He said, well, first off, George is in shape. The second thing is George fucking squats and he deadlifts. So now all these other people in the weight room are also not arguing with me to do it. So it is twofold. Not everybody wants you to do what you want to do. I mean, they have methods that they want to incorporate with their guys. But I talk with the Bucks. I talk with Minnesota. I talk with Green Bay. I talk with Dustin. I talk with Zach. I try to get on the phone with all of these guys as a professional courtesy to let them know what I'm going to be doing and to also let them tell me what they may see before the guys even get there. Because they spend more time with an athlete than I do. I think what the time I spend from a strength and conditioning standpoint is more meaningful, but they do have the athlete from the last week of July till at least the first week of January. I don't know what's going on. I program for TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, Tanyan, but I don't actually know what's going on in those weight rooms unless the coach is willing to share that with me.
That's wild to me because you say you program, and I guess like it's one interesting thing to me become like Max Crosby's a really good friend of mine, and Max is one of the hardest workers in the gym. I remember after he signed his first contract, I saw him the day after he signed his first mega deal, and I said, "Man, you're dirty rich. What'd you do today?" And he's like, I went to the gym at 5 a.m. Like that's what Max does. He goes to the facility. Like, is somebody else helping work? Because like again, I'm gonna caveat that for everybody watching, working out like this is so new to me, and that's one thing. That's one reason that like. I've had to make videos to send Jeff, and I've had to sit there and be like, man, I don't know if my form's right on this. Like, so when you're writing stuff for Kittle and then he walks away from you, like, how does that get executed? Is somebody helping him execute your plan, or does he just know so much shit by this point that he's like, I know how all this feels and how all of it works?
So in-season training is much different than what we do in the off-season. I'm just looking to provide a stimulus that's great enough, and this is going to sound sciencey as shit, but a stimulus that's great enough to maintain overall strength for as long as possible. So I'm not going ultra complicated, velocity-based training. All that stuff gets thrown out the window during in-season because they're running, they're hitting, they're jumping, their sport takes priority. But if I can keep George, if I can keep TJ 90 to 95% as strong as they were when they left me in July, in January, then they are absolutely winning. And it doesn't take a ton of volume to accomplish that. A little bit of intensity, 2 or 3 days a week, but everything gets shrunk down, everything gets simplified. They'll do the same workout 6 weeks in a row on Monday, 6 weeks in a row on Thursday, and then I'll flip it. I'll flip it 3 times throughout the year. That is how we get to a general adaptation syndrome. They have 3 different workouts 6 times a year. And that's what keeps them strong and fresh. And that, we'll have one conversation. What's this? What's this? What's this? And then bam, for 6 weeks. And then we change it up for 6 weeks. Then we change it up one more time. And that's it. Super simple. Simple gets it done. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's funny to me because Jeff got on my ass a little bit. I don't know. We were about 3 months in. And so this is where like I got a bunch of tattoos, right? And when I got my first tattoo, I remember my tattoo girl said, "Look, everybody's going to give you advice on how to take care of your tattoos." I did them, so just listen to me, right? But she was right. Like 2 days in, people were like, "No, man, you're not letting that thing heal right." Like that's what everybody does. I've discovered the same shit happens when you're working out because like you get 2 weeks in and all of a sudden everybody you've ever known that works out starts chirping in your ear. Well, you really need to like, so I started hearing from all my friends, "Oh man, like you've been doing the same thing for a month. No, you got to start changing it up, man. Like your guys, you're paying this guy and he hasn't changed your workout yet. Like, what are you doing?" And again, like, look, I grew up a fat kid that played the violin, right? So like, this workout journey for me is new, right? So I've taken care of myself for like the last 10 years, but never found the right way until I hired Jeff. And it's funny to me because I still hear all the time, like my buddies, I hit Jeff up a couple of times and I said, "Man, I'm struggling to focus. We're struggling to focus." And what all my friends immediately tell me is, "Well, your guy needs to be changing your routine up more, man. That's how you keep your focus." So I go to Jeff and I'm like, "I'm struggling to focus. What do I do?" And Jeff's like, "Get your head out of your ass and figure out how to focus. Like we don't need to change the workout yet." So it's funny that you say you change it 3 times because that seems so counterintuitive, guys, to like what, like, I don't know, your Joe Trainer on the street tells you to do all the time. It just feels wildly different.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's that's the one thing I probably see that's most common between my style of training and y'all style of training. And the one thing that I think doesn't change is the longer you stay within a cycle and the more you can continue to progress that cycle, the better it's going to be.
Uh-huh.
And it's easy for me with the in-season guys because checking in 3 days a week to train for 45 to 50 minutes, they don't need it to change, right? That is, they are literally just checking the box. Their priority is speed in football and learning whatever they have to for that week's preparation. The workouts are important, but if it doesn't change, I could probably run it for 10 weeks and they wouldn't ask me when we're going to change it. They're getting in there, they're hitting their weights. I put it on there, they do it, we're done. Least amount of change, the better for these guys during season.
I
I
mean,
wanted go ahead. Oh, I wanted to ask real quick because this is where my mind goes. He brought up a lot of good points, but I think maybe give an overlay to our audience what a training program looks like that you would kind of give some. I get some of his IP. We don't always want to give away all our little secrets, please. But like if you were to like get George in there and Kittle's about to begin like that Monday workout, how does a Monday and a Thursday workout look, and how are you programming that generally to start?
So currently we're on a upper lower split. Um, so Monday, no, lower upper split. Thursday, Monday, Thursday will be lower body. I do undulate throughout the week. So my first day of the week will be my highest intensity. So that'll be like my ballistic day, mostly because they're freshest. I can get the most velocity out of them on a Monday. And then Thursday will be more of my strength based day, and we'll stay in that phase for 4 to 5 weeks, even during the off season, where like Jason was saying, they request a little bit of change. They want it to be fresh. The way that I can change it ever so slightly is to change the accessories, like that last block where they it's less meaningful, and a slight change in an adductor movement really doesn't change the overall outcome of the program, but our primary movements are going to stay the same. We always start power base first. If it's a Monday, that's probably going to be a jump, change of direction. We go into a phase early on where bilateral movement is more important to me. So if Monday intention is squat, Thursday's intention will be deadlift, and then that'll flip after that 5 week period. I do take a whole 6 week block where I prioritize unilateral movements as my primary strength movement. We talk a lot about velocity and force of development and rate of force absorption, but for me, your ability to transfer force from one limb to the other, whether that's lower body or upper body, directly correlates to your ability to produce and change a direction to an athlete. So I would rather see George be able to split squat 315 pounds than for him to squat 500. He can do both. That's great. But a lot of my younger, underdeveloped guys that might have come from a smaller school, well, fuck, they can't split squat 95 pounds. So I have instantly identified a weakness. I had a guy who played, he's on year 11, played more downs at offensive line over a 9 year period than anybody in the league. Played with Tom Brady, played for the Patriots, played for the Bucks, was just with Houston. Jason, that's some quiz for you if you can figure out who it is. We started doing unilateral work. He called me in the next day. He's like, man, I just don't know if this is for me. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I like the squat. I like the bench. I'm like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
you will get better and last longer if you get better at this new skill set, because you're already good at that skill set. So for me, that's why I take a whole block of my time and dedicate it to that, because majority of my guys, that is untapped potential that I'm able to tap without directly annihilating their CNS, annihilating their joints, keeping that Ferrari fresh. Doesn't have to be as heavy, but we get a great stimulus out of it.
That's okay. So I want to throw this out to the whole room because this is really interesting to me what you just said. Like, because I spent years of my life when I started in the fitness realm. I knew I was a little pudgy on the road playing. I was touring. I was like, I'm going to lose a little weight. So I did Insanity, then I did P90X. Like, I did all the things everybody does, right? Like all of those things. When I met Jeff, I was coming off a year of Orange Theory. And for the longest time, I kept telling people, I don't think it really matters what you do as long as you do it all the time. As long as you do it regularly, you'll see the results. I found that that's actually not true. I always thought like, hey, because I always hear something's better than nothing. Find your thing, commit to your thing. Most of the people that I know, even that do like the same thing over and over, whether it's like a class form or whether it's Pilates or what, like you find the one thing you like, the one thing you know you can get through, it wears you out. So you feel like you got a great workout, but then you look a year later and you're like, man, my body doesn't look any different. I'm not sure that I'm metabolizing things any different. Like I do this workout, but I don't know that I'm getting results. I think it's interesting, guys. Like, as much as we've become sort of the culture of, hey, get out and exercise to do something, I don't think it's that simple. I do think that for it I've gotten faster results in the last year. I got like Jeff knows this, but I even looked at lipo because I got like a little belly. I want to get rid of my little belly. I looked at lipo. They told me I'm not a candidate for less than it would have cost me because I was too small to get lipo or cool sculpting or any of these things. For less than that would have cost me in a year, I've gotten the results that I wanted, but it takes somebody that's constantly looking at it and saying, okay, tweak this. And now we're going to do this to your food. And now we're going to do that to your workout. Like, I do think that we sometimes as a society almost oversimplify workouts into just do anything and it's going to be great. And that's not the case. Like the fact that an NFL player is out here saying, no, I like squatting and benching. Like, okay, people in hell want ice water too. Like you got to do what you got to do to get the best results. Like, I just think it's crazy that we've sort of replaced that logic in society.
Yeah, I think to your point, something is better than nothing for a certain clientele. I think Jeff and Jason probably have some of those people that are, my dad, like my dad, something is better than nothing. But what you're saying, Jason, is if you would have went to whatever that class was and you would have done that for a year and somehow they would have found a way to incorporate progressive overload within that, which they don't, right? Because that's not the purpose. The purpose is to run you into the ground. They're not taking progressions from a day to day, week to week, month to month basis. Maybe there is some classes out there in the world that do that. That is the lacking component for most everybody that just tries to go show up and do the same ish thing. You can go to the YMCA. Hell, you can probably go to Jeff's gym, Iron House, and unless they've spoke to somebody on staff and they know what they're doing, somebody will be doing the same 3 sets of 10 with the same 135 on bench press after a year, and they don't look any fucking different because they never decided to try 155 or they never decided to try 145 for 4 sets of 8. They never changed anything about the progression, so they did stay the same. It's okay to do the same-ish thing, but you got to progress yourself throughout that. If you're doing 135 for a set of 10 in January and you're not getting close to 225 by November, you're doing something wrong, right? It is okay to continue to bench press, but you got to progress yourself along the way.
Agreed. Scoop, what question you got, my man? I want to see where you want to go now.
Well, and you can tell me if this is too soon to ask this, but I'm going to ask a selfish question of Josh.
Go for it.
Josh, and he doesn't play football, but I have a son who's 11. All right.
Yep.
And he just he moved up a level in his select soccer here in town. There was like 115 kids that went out. He made it. He was one of 50 that made it. But he got into the sport late. So like his effort, he's aggressive, he's fast-ish, needs a little work there. But his skill needs to come. So I can help with the skill side. I played in college, but I want to start helping him with a little bit more first step in quickness. Can you give me 3 things that an 11-year-old could do, whether it's cones or footwork that I could buy, whatever I need on Amazon, and do that with him weekly?
I think you take the component of your ability to absorb force and then reproduce that force. So it's so simple that it's not. Like your ability to drop off a box and absorb like a depth drop is so crucial. And then you progress from that. It's a depth drop into an explosive out of that. And you get good at those 2 things. And then you find the ability to overspeed that. And if you've seen anything I've done on Instagram, it's like a banded from the rack, right? And now you're doing split squat, just pogo jumps, because your ability to get faster and explode out of something is directly related to your tendon's ability to pop out of that. The fastest people in the world typically are the stiffest looking people, but they're fucking just tied up rubber bands and it just goes, right? So your reactive ability, those things right there at 10, 11, we do it at 25-year-old NFL athletes. They will make you more explosive.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I want to ask this question. Earlier, we talked about like the pressure of training them and like how you have to be. But how is it year after year you figure out new ways to, I guess, reinvent yourself to keep getting the younger kids coming up as you age in a demographic where looking cool on TikTok and Instagram is kind of the rage, even though you're spitting dumb shit all day?
Yeah,
How do you find yourself staying relevant and really connecting with them and the pressure of that? How do you absorb all that? Like, how do you put that to use?
that's another good question. I hire a really good media guy, right? So he does a really good job of taking a lot of basic stuff that I do, and splicing some shit together to make it look really fucking fire. Now, to say that we don't do stuff for the gram, but we do movements that are a little bit out of left field every now and then, because I do have to find ways to challenge these athletes, right? Like we were talking about earlier, they still do need to be challenged. Some of the movement qualities that they have are just so advanced that regular movement, it requires so much load to actually get a stimulus out of them that I have to do some atypical things, right? And I'm not a big kettlebell guru where we're fucking flipping a kettlebell in the air and catching it and going behind the back, like none of that stuff. But a lot of our jumping variations, a lot of our banded work, a lot of things in that regard are very fresh to these guys. They've never done it. It looks cool, and that's what they like to see. But for me, it's just another way that I can implement a fairly standard movement, add a different component to it, and then I can still progress it. Right. I had I'll never forget this story. I was training Lauren Tannehill, and she trap bar deadlifted maybe 135 pounds with a band, which was for her was pretty good, right? And she posted it and she got no engagement. She was pissed. She's like, people don't give a shit about real training, none of that stuff. She posted another video a week later doing a split squat jump with no weight where she just drove her knee up into the air. And I'm gonna be honest, I got a 70-year-old lady that's had a knee replacement. She can do the same movement. That video went over 1 million because
Really?
it looked cool and people didn't understand actually how simplistic it was, but it looked like she was doing this weird single leg jump into the air, and that's what people wanted to see. So every now and then, some of the fresh, fancy looking stuff, as long as I can fit it into my program and there's a progression that goes with it, we 100% work it in.
What's been the hardest mental thing you've had to encounter and work with on a client, and how did you retool them to get around that? I would like a success story and a failure story.
Um, Sometimes
Fits, get ready.
when people are coming off an injury, uh,
Okay.
I've been there. I've torn my right ACL 3 times. Had a bicep rupture 18 months ago. Um, it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to mentally come back from that, especially when you're an NFL athlete and your livelihood's on the line. Well, fuck, mine is too. Like I train for a living, so I'm not trying to hear that. But when your livelihood's on the line, you start to mentally overthink discomfort and you associate it with the potential injury that you occurred, right? So you have a little bit of right knee discomfort. Am I doing this movement wrong? Am I doing that movement wrong? I feel this in my hip. Should I be feeling it in my hip? Well, a lot of times if we're doing a barbell front squat, you're not going to not feel your hip. No, that is not the intended muscle group that we're working, but it's okay. Like it is okay to feel things in places that aren't 100% designed there. But when you're coming off an injury, it's really hard to get somebody to believe that, because everything they do comes back to why did this happen? What could I do differently? How can I avoid this again? Right. So that to me is the biggest challenge, especially when you're in a room full of savages and you got one guy who is 2 years out from ACL. Like they're more than ready. They played the year before and had a good season, but yet they're still churning things in their head and getting them to just to let it go, right? Just let it go. Like that is in the past. Like it is so far in the past. It's just hard to get them to see that, right? And my biggest success with that to this date is probably Robert Tanya. I mean, poor guy. He fucking love him. Was 11 touchdowns deep the year before with Green Bay. Was 5 touchdowns, 400 yards in. Catches a slant post over the middle. He's running. He's fighting off defender. Tries to change direction. Just ACL gone. And for him, that was going into a contract year. Ended up signing a pretty good deal, I think a 2 for 7 or so. But his player value was closer to 10, right? So now for a year after that, going on 2 years after that, it was all like, what could I do differently? How can we overcome that? And he's as big and as strong as he's ever been. And he was finally able to put that thing down, finally able to show up and fucking work like he knew what got him to that point as a 11 touchdown guy. It took a minute to get back to that person, cautiously optimistic. And now that's in the past and he's fucking ready to roll. That's success. Failure. Athlete failure?
Any failure I'll accept, but high level of some kind.
Yeah. I had I've had weight loss clients before. I think that's the easiest failure. I had one lost 50, straight up working with me. Still went on to do a procedure afterwards, like Jason was talking about, and then he dropped off. And I'll be damned if he didn't put 65 of it back on.
Yep.
He thought he had it, plus the procedure, which made him eat a little bit less for a little while, and then just fell right back into that same lifestyle that he was in before. And we've come around, started working together again, and come around and lost some weight. But that's a massive battle, and for both of us, truly was a failure that I did not see coming.
Yeah, it eats at you as a coach. I know Jason and I, Scoob and I talk about that and like we'll vent to each other because we really want our clients to win and we put all in on it, and it's sometimes like, shit, just do it. You know what I mean? And just damn it, you've tried everything else but this. Like, what the hell? Like, it's crazy. So, Fitzy, go ahead and fire off your question, whatever you got. If you want to follow up, that's cool. And then Scoob, you can fire yours before you got to roll off to your meeting real quick. All right.
All right, let's talk about business for a second, just because to me, I hate the concept of we're brands. Like I hate that concept, but I have said for years, I think we're all small business owners, right? So like anybody that works for themselves is a small business owner. So for you, when you were starting out, even now, like scalability is one of the toughest things in small business. Like how did I go from a podcast to ESPN to what I do now, or how to go from playing 0 gigs to touring with a band, right? Like these are all scalability issues. Like, so for you, when you look back, like as a business owner in the beginning, what was your biggest sort of hurdle you had to jump through? And now that you're successful, what's the toughest part of scalability to continue to grow?
There's only so many hours that you yourself can work in a week in person. Jeff and I were talking earlier. I mean, fuck, there was times I was training 65 hours a week. Most of them were one-on-one. I was giving a lot of it back to the facility I was working at. That obviously wasn't sustainable. And then it became, okay, now I'm going to start pairing some people together. Small group training is going to become more my gig. Again, still limited in how much time you can spend on the floor. Biggest obstacle, I think, though, Jason, is being able to replicate yourself when it comes to in-person training, especially with athletes like I prioritize and that prioritize me. They put a lot of trust in me as a coach and me as a person. And it's hard to bring people. I can bring in people to help me. And if I have to leave town for something for a few days, that helps. But I have a really hard time having athletes believe that I'm going to have a whole nother group of guys running simultaneously at the same time as me, and my eyes aren't on them, right? And that's a struggle. It's a struggle that I have every year. Sometimes I got groups of 14 people in one session because they don't want to split and they don't want to not have my eyeballs on them. And
that's pressure.
It's a struggle that I haven't been able to overcome. Scalability has been online. Jeff and Jason know all about that. That's the biggest, easiest, most successful way for somebody in my position to scale. I have the platform, I have the name, image, likeness from these guys, and I have the results that come with it. I can replicate myself 80 to 100 times online much easier than I can take on another 10 in-person clients. Yep. And that's where I'm able to scale. On top of that, we're opening a new facility in Nashville, which will help just broaden the brand. I've got some really good guys around me, some MLB strength coaches. So it's going to open that door a little bit more for me, which is different. I fucking love the in-person training. I love the connection. I love the environment. I love the vibes. I love the success. And it's not just athletes. I love 100-pound weight loss. I love changing somebody's life. And I don't ever want to give that up. I've been through 5 different mentorships that gear me towards going 100% online, maybe training 5 hours a week with NFL guys, and you'll make $250,000 a year. Maybe, maybe so. But I would miss the connection with the guys that I see Monday through Friday. And that's something I'm able, like in my head, to say I might make a little less money, but I'm going to be a lot happier doing it the way I do it.
I will real quick before I throw it off. The one thing I'll tell you, just I'm the ultimate online client, right? Because I don't see Jeff in person. Everything we do is through an app. We talk
Mhm.
every week. We talk in that app all the time. The only thing I'll tell you is that because what you're talking about with scalability requires a lot of trust, and you got to hire smart. You got to do all of these things. The one thing I will tell you is that you can cultivate an app world that is really effective. I don't know a lot of people that have done it as well as Jeff has, but just from the client standpoint, I'll say like I feel more comfortable and more seen in the app. And weirdly, I feel less self-conscious when I'm working out most of the time. Like I wish I lived closer so that like once a month he could just fucking rip me. But
Mhm.
like the app has turned into a really beautiful thing where I do feel seen and I do feel heard and I do feel results. And like, so I just as a client, I'm just letting you know that there is an app world that still lets you have that very personal connection. And I'll credit Jeff doing a great job of that.
Thank you
I'll
for
say
that, man. You pimped me free of charge. I appreciate it.
nothing's free. Come
Not
on.
even planned. Not even planned. Scoob, fire off your question, man. What do you got?
Yeah, so this might already have kind of been answered by what you just said, but I'm sitting here thinking, and it seems like, once you get a few high profile clients, you probably could open the door to as many as you want. Is that your goal? Like to just have a few main dogs in the NFL, or what is your ultimate business goal, I guess?
They're they're a very good tool to leverage without overstepping their leverage to gain new clientele. I haven't taken new in-person clients in probably 5 years,
Okay.
and that's by design. Now I have helped other people around me eat off of some of these relationships, which has been good for friends, family, colleagues. Um, and now that we're opening a new facility, which will be 10 times what I'm currently in,
Uh,
then we will open the doors and it'll be full steam ahead on growing an in-person gym again, which has been a long time for me to do. I know Jeff's had tremendous success doing that. It's not an easy thing to do. So I'm excited about that challenge.
do you now, or will you have coaches under you that can do your methods, or
100%. So that's something my partner, we're very eye to eye. We train extremely similar. We have a lot of the same. He was with San Francisco in their weight room. He now does Major League Baseball. We see eye to eye. So we've come up with a curriculum and a coaching plan in which we will implement. And we still want to give freedom. Like I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they pigeonhole somebody to their methods, to their principles, and people have to be able to differentiate themselves and think for themselves within like this broad spectrum. Like we still want all of the same outcomes to occur, but I want Jason. If Jason's coaching with me and Jason knows how we train, and Jason has his own methods in which he took from me and Mike Boyle and Jason Farigla and whoever, he's going to build his own thing within this broad spectrum. He just has to stay within that. Like he can't train Jeff Black style for George Kittle. Jeff can train George when he's retired to be a fucking WWE wrestler, right? But for right now, Jeff has his style, we have our style, and for athletic development, it is that way. Now we're gonna have different types of training that occur within there, and that's going to be a different subcategory. But for our athletes, I have the principles that we want to stay within for sure.
so one of the biggest things that, I had issues with, I have 14 coaches under me,
Mm-hmm.
is I want them to be free to do certain things of their own, but I also want them to follow a system because it works and it gets the
Yep.
results, and that's my
Mm-hmm.
brand that you're under.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I created a whole education program. I've got
Mm-hmm.
modules. It's on Kartra. I can sell it to the outer public, but it's really was created for my team so that
Mm-hmm.
everything's uniform. Have you done anything that like advanced forward yet, or if you've thought about doing that, like creating your own method, and it's
Yep.
your method, and it's here's the modules and here watch it, or is it just kind of going to be education throughout the gym? Like how structured are you going to do it? Because as someone who's scaled that, that's your biggest concern is
Yep.
people. tarnishing your brand?
So I'm currently taking a twist off Jason Brown, who's trains very much similar to me, has a fairly big online platform. And right now he prioritizes coaching coaches on his methods. So like most people, I bought his course. I went through it. I saw how he developed it. I saw the process in which he went through. And that's pretty much how we're going through this evergreen process now.
Awesome. I highly recommend that. So yeah, that's great.
Um, I have like two final questions, but they're kind of like compare and contrast. What is one training philosophy you believe in? One you think that's overrated? And then I got to follow up, and then I'll pitch it, then close it out. Scoob might have to jump off. He's got a meeting, full disclosure, but me and Jay Fitz will take it to a close. So if you could just answer that, and I got to follow up.
Sweet. I'm a big believer in the triphasic method, which is eccentrics, isometrics, ballistic. I believe that the three things are necessary for you have to be able to decelerate. So you have to be able to control yourself eccentrically. You have to be able to overcome isometrics. It happens more times than people can ever even think about, where two football athletes come, they collide, and there's a stalemate. Somebody has to be able to overcome that, right? And then your ability to rapidly contract a muscle tissue is also incredibly important for an athlete. So though, like that method, I'm a big believer in. I am not a I'm not a huge believer in a lot of the recovery modalities that we implement today. Cryotherapy, I think I think cold tubs get overused. I'm a guy that thinks those are band-aids, and if you're taking care of yourself properly, they need to be used very sparingly. You come into my gym, you get on a foam roller, and you want to spend 15 minutes rolling around because you feel like shit. I'm going to say that your previous 7 days, like we started the podcast with, was probably pretty shitty, right? We do a lot of stuff that takes care of the body. So if you're having to continually put a band-aid on it, then you're not taking care of yourself.
What do you do for mental health?
Uh, Overcome obstacles in my weight room is big. We do a ton of breathing. I'm a big believer in breathing. Now, from a mental health standpoint, a lot of our guys, they have a me, they have a person, which I love. George's dad does a lot of mental health training. Most staffs have somebody, a sports psychologist on staff now also. I won't begin to pretend like I am the expert in that. I think a lot of people would like to pretend they're the expert in fucking everything. I'm not. If people come to me and they want life advice, I think I can help you on that. I've got two kids. I've been divorced. I've had a business start. I had a business get shut down. I got fired. I've been hired. Like all this stuff. So I think I can have a educated conversation with people, and I think that helps. You know, a lot of times these guys, they come to you and they think their world is just so incredibly bad, right? So just having some perspective with people, I think helps clear up the mind a lot. And for me, like I was saying earlier, depending on the person, helping them win in my weight room goes a long way to how their mindset is going into the next day.
100%. Scoob, you got anything to wrap before you got to go? And then Fitz, you can close her up for us, buddy.
No, I do need to hop off for another meeting, but I want to thank both of you guys for hopping on here. It was a great
Absolutely.
call. I'll leave it to you guys to wrap up, and I'll chat with you soon.
We'll do a follow up. I think I got a whole bunch of questions to follow up from this. So,
Can I grab one more? Do you have time for
dude,
one more?
yeah,
Like,
no, you got to close
okay.
this baby up before we turn it to Josh to pimp out where to find him and support him.
It's all right, Josh. I got to figure out, because when you train, like you've mentioned some of the guys, what they are asked to do on the field is so vastly different. Like George
Yep.
Kittle's job is different than an offensive lineman's job,
Mhm.
and their body types are so wildly different. How do you, as a trainer that isn't, you're not 360 pounds, like fat dude, I always make fun of fat, like NFL games are won and lost by fat guys, right? Like
Yep.
you're not a fat guy. So how hard is it for you to figure out the right way to train somebody that's body is so wildly different than yours, and then try to adapt your training style to such different needs on the field for what they're being asked to do?
I think before you came on, we talked a little bit about this, but briefly. So part of what makes me successful is my understanding of the game of football and what is required from different people at different positions. So when I'm programming and I got Shaq Mason, Graham Barton from Tampa, Justin School, Connor McDermott, whoever another offensive lineman. I got 6'8", 320. I've got Shaq, who's 6 foot 340. Sorry, Shaq, 325.
Yeah.
And then I got a group of tight ends, wide receivers on the next rack over. My movement pattern, while it's programmed for that day, maybe a squat, the modality in which I'm implementing with the athlete is okay to change, right? So their demands are a lot different depending on position. They may not do a front squat. They may do a back squat. They may do a double front rack goblet squat. They may do a hack squat, or they may do a belt squat. Depending on the person and their limitations, we're going to change the movement modality for that pattern. And then we're going to go from there. Same thing with our upper body pull. Everybody's a little bit different. You've got shoulder surgeries. You've got all the stuff that comes into it. It's still a pull for us, but the modality of pull that we implement is going to change per athlete. It's fucking mayhem in there when I've got 12 guys and I've got 2 rotator cuff surgeries. I've got a guy that had a labrum, Achilles, a couple knees. I can't really squat, coach. I got that spondy, that low back thing. Fuck. Okay, yeah, let's do this. So at that point, you can look at the board. I've got blah, 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 and then I've got little asterisks next to it. Like this is your variation, and then it's fucking go.
Did you have a hard time earning trust from the big boys in the beginning? Because that's not your body type. Like, just to again. Well, I was told when I was first looking for a trainer, hire somebody that looks like you. I did not. I hired somebody that's like fucking huge, right? I don't want to look fucking huge. And he's changed my life. So I get it. But it took me a minute to be like, no, this guy actually understands me. Did you have a hard time earning trust in the very beginning from the offensive line body type, listening to you?
Yeah, 0%. I understand what's necessary to become bigger, faster, stronger, more powerful. And they understood that very, very early on. And I think it does get overemphasized in strength and conditioning that it has to be this much different from one athlete to the next. Our goal as a coach is to make you faster, depending on position, stronger, more powerful. And I can do that from any athlete across the board. Now, what their skill set requires within that sport is where they get better at that sport. But I am giving them the stimulus and the ability to contract to produce more force within that sport. So for me, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, fighter, offensive lineman, I'm going to get you more explosive, and that's going to carry over into your sport. And I think my guys understood that at a very, very early on.
It's powerful.
Jason, I'm gonna have to connect you guys because I think he'd be fun for you guys to chat with because
I'd love to
a whole different layer of lens to what you guys probably hear or see, or just be like just a peek into a world, man, with all y'all. So I have to connect
you and I talk about this all the time, but I would just say I build everything I have in my life, whatever that is, on the concept of aggregating information. Like the smarter you get about as many things as possible, like I'm better at football because I sat down with people that played at the highest level, and I sat down with those guys and said, explain to me why this happened and why that happened. And like, that's what, like, there's no different than training. Like this is wildly interesting to me to get an understanding, because we sit here and we break down these draft prospects. And, it was years ago that one of the guys I know well in the league said, stop looking at 40-yard dash times. They don't matter. Start looking at these things instead. And it has wildly helped my draft prep to come in and say, hey, it doesn't matter what this kid ran in the 40. We'll look at this and this and this instead. So like, I find this wildly interesting because there's nuance to this that most of us, if you reach for the nuance, you're better at your job. And that's just, I don't care for anybody listening. I don't care if we're talking about construction or weightlifting or music or sports. Like, if you get a better understanding of the why and the how, you have a better understanding of what you're looking at. So I find this wildly interesting to me.
Dude, well, I appreciate you joining. Well, I'll have to link up and do a part 2 to this because I have so many questions that I could even go so further down. But, we try to keep them an hour or so because people only listen for a little bit. But Josh, thanks for taking the time to join us. But Jay, dude, where can everybody find and follow you at before I turn it to Josh to close this out?
Yeah, check everything out on Yahoo Sports. I'm all over all of our college football, NFL content, also on Fox Sports Radio. So follow me on social media at Jason Fitz. Super easy to get there.
Badass. And Josh, man, where can everybody find you, follow you, subscribe to your content, things like that? I
Yep.
need to come watch you when you open up your gym. I'll be there day one. I
Yeah.
always believe in support people, but
Love
I
it.
might come and shadow you one day when you're training these guys just
Come
to
on.
get a breath of like what it's like. Cause I train a lot of gym pop people and bodybuilders, but I would love to see like what it's like where I could just be in a gym like, hey, fuck you. Don't you let that bar. No, don't. You just like scream at them and like smack them. Be like,
Different
I'll
vibe.
spit in your mouth. I'll do it, and just be like, yeah,
There's a
dust
lot of just
everywhere.
fucking
LeBron, give him
backslaps
LeBron
and
air.
just handprints on both scapulas
Yeah.
across the room, on the
Um,
chest.
yeah.
Uh, Josh _ Alpha Strength. The gym that we're bringing to Nashville is at Collective with a K. We're excited about that. I'm excited to grow a brand that I believe in with some people that believe in me and that I'm excited to partner with. And Jason, I'll send you a Niners shirt so you can have something appropriate next time we talk.
No, that's not gonna. That's not gonna happen. I mean, no. Look, I think I'm gonna be hanging around Tight End University, so I'm sure I'll see you there.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
we'll
sweet.
actually get to meet in person. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
awesome.
worry, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'll just be quiet. But anyway, you all have yourselves good one. Be sure, as always, audience, like, share, love, show some support. And again, thank you, Jason, for jumping in at after you got off that call and making it. I wanted your perspective because I knew it'd be so unique to what Scoob and the other Jason and I normally ask. So thanks for joining, man. We appreciate
Sure,
it.
thanks for having me.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.